Hello everyone, welcome to Literature Camp, a channel for the preparation of UGC NET and set in English literature. I am Debarghya Chakraborty. This is my third class on Unit 5 of UGC NET syllabus, that is language, basic concepts, theories and pedagogy. I have created a playlist on Unit 5 of UGC NET syllabus where you can watch all the classes one by one. So please check it out. The topic of our today's discussion is Noam Chomsky's linguistic theories and his important works. If you check previous year questions, you'll find Noam Chomsky is somebody who is asked every time in UGC NET examination. So you should read very carefully his writer Noam Chomsky. So let's start this class. Noam Chomsky. I hope you are going to make notes of all the points I'm going to make. So be ready with a pen and paper and start making notes. Noam Chomsky. He is an American professor, a very famous linguistic, and a writer of more than 100 works. So, American professor. And he's still alive, all right? So what are the theories of Noam Chomsky? There are three theories of Noam Chomsky. Number one, generative grammar. This is number one, generative grammar theory. Number two is transformational theory. This is number two. Number three is generative transformational theory. So scholars who have studied Noam Chomsky's work refer to his three grammar and language theories as generative grammar theory. This is number 1 point. Second theory is transformational theory, and theory number 3 is generative transformational theory. All right, but he has given emphasis on the first theory, generative grammar theory, to explain and to defend his concept of generative grammar theory. He has explained the concept of language competence and language performance. Yes, so one question can come, why he has explained, or to explain which theory he has explained the concept of language competence and language performance. So the answer is generative grammar theory. All right, so now I shall be discussing language competence and language performance. So what is language competence? By definition, competence is regarded as the internal biological potential of a person to generate grammatical sentences based on the internal rules of generative grammar. Yes, you can understand. So every human being has some internal quality or potentiality to generate grammatical sentences. All right, so this is all about language competence, and he calls language competence as I language. So I language, why I language? I means internalized language, internalized. All right, so internalized language. So I hope you have understood language competence. Language competence is about the internal biological potentiality or ability of a person to create or to generate grammatical rules based on internal rules of generative grammar. So it is very much, this concept, his concept is very much similar to the concept of lang. All right, I have explained as well in my first class on Unit 5 the concept of lang and parole. Right, so language competence is regarded as the internal quality of a person to generate grammatical sentences based on the internal rules of generative grammar. So this is all about language competence. So what is language performance in? And one more information that you need to remember: language competence means uh, act of act of knowing. All right, act of knowing. Competence means knowing, act of knowing. That's why. Then what is language performance? On the other hand, performance is considered as the utterances of these sentences. Yes, you can understand by the word itself, performance. You perform language. Whenever you speak in a language, you perform language, right? So performance is considered as the utterances of these sentences, which is influenced by both internal and external state of environment, right? Internal and external state of environment. In other words, it suggests act of speaking. Again, this concept is very much similar to the concept of parole, right? I have already explained the concept of, or the dichotomy of lang and parole in my first class, as I've told you already. So do watch that class. That will help you to understand this dichotomy. So language performance is considered as the utterance of these sentences uh, both by internal and external state of environment. All right, and he calls it, Noam Chomsky calls it as e-language. Why e-language? External knowledge about language. E stands for external. Whenever we perform language, whenever we speak, that's why it is called act of speaking. Or competence, language competence is called act of knowing, and language performance is called act of doing. All right, so act of doing. So it suggests the act of speaking, as I've told you already. So competence means internal or biological potentiality of a person to generate or to make create grammatical rules. All right, that is all about competence. And performance means whenever you speak in a language, you perform a language, right? So that's why it is called language performance. This dichotomy, this uh, concept is very much similar to the concept of lang and parole of Ferdinand de Saussure, which I have explained already. So this is all about language competence and language performance. But let me tell you, Noam Chomsky has given emphasis on language competence over language performance. So he has given more priority to I language over E language. So this is something that you also need to keep in mind. Please make a note of it that Noam Chomsky has given priority or emphasis on language competence or I language over language performance or E language. We will focus important works written by Noam Chomsky, and Noam Chomsky has written more than 100 works, and it's very difficult for anyone to remember all the names, but these are all important works. I'm not listed all the works, trying to make the list very short, but you need to remember at least all the names I have listed here. So important works written by Noam Chomsky. Number one is Syntactic Structures, published year 1957. Again, you need to remember the publication year. If you check previous year question, you find already UGC asked a question, syntactic structure, aspects of theory of syntax, and two more works, and we had to set them in chronology. So we need to remember the publication year. Syntactic Structure, published in 1957. There is a famous line in that work that you need to remember. colorless green ideas sleep furiously. What does it mean? Let me write it down. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. This is a famous line from this work, syntactic structure. What does it mean then? It does not mean anything. If you check this line is grammatically correct, not incorrect. Grammatically structured, grammatically correct sentence. It does not have any meaning. So that is his point. That is Noam Chomsky's point. What do you mean by syntax? Let me write it down. Syntax is the study of sentence structure. So please write it down. Study of sentence structure. So Noam Chomsky has given emphasis on sentence structure, not on the meaning, because this sentence has no meaning. It's meaningless. So Noam Chomsky has given emphasis or given priority to the syntax, not on the semantic meaning. What does it mean? Semantic. Semantic means the study of meaning of a word. All right. He has not given emphasis on the semantic. Rather, he has given emphasis on syntax, the study of sentence structure. This sentence has no meaning, but if you look at this sentence is grammatically structured, is correct. So this is a very famous line that you need to remember. This line can be asked that from which work this line is taken. So the answer will be Syntactic Structures, published in 1957. Next work is again very much important, Aspects of the Theory of Syntax. Aspects of the Theory of Syntax, published in 1965. Next work is Topics in the Theory of Generative Grammar, published in 1966. Next work is Knowledge of Language. So definitely his work will be on language, knowledge of language. All right, published in 1966. Next work is Responsibility of Intellectuals, published in 1967. And this work, Responsibility of Intellectuals, is important. It's an anti-war essay. Anti-war essay. All right. So you need to keep in mind the Responsibility of Intellectuals is an anti-war essay, published in 1967. Next work, Language and Mind, published in 1968. Next work, Reflections of Language. Reflections of Language, published in 1975. They can ask the chronology again, so please try to remember the published year as well. Next work is The Logical Structure of Linguistic Theory, published in 1975. The Logical Structure of Linguistic Theory, published in 1975. Next work is Language and Responsibility, published in 1977. Language and Responsibility, published in 1977. So I hope you have written down all the important works. Next we will see the sound pattern of language with Maurice Hale, published in 1979. Just remember the name of the work, The Sound Pattern of Language, written with Maurice Hale. All right. Then Culture, Terrorism, The Culture of Terrorism. This is important. 1988, published in 1988. Then this work is something again very significant work. Manufacturing Consent. The Political Economy of Mass Media, published in 1988. It is written with Edward S. Harman. Again, you need to remember this name. This is BVI. A question can come. Who has written Manufacturing Consent, or what is the subtitle of this work? The Political Economy of Mass Media, published in 1988. All right. Next work is Language and Politics. Again, this work is important. You need to remember. Language and Politics, published in 1988. Necessary Illusions, published in 1989. You could remember this name. Next work, Modular Approaches Study Mind, published in 1990. Next work is Deterring Democracy. Deterring Democracy, published in 1991. Next work is important work, The Minimalist Program. So definitely they can ask anyone who has written the Minimalist Program. If you do not know, you do not know. If you know, you can simply answer, right? So Minimalist Program, published in 1995. Next work, On Language, 1998, On Language. Next work is Propaganda and Public Mind, written with David Barsamain, published in 1998. So who has written Propaganda and Public Mind? Anything can come. Published in 1998. Next work, Profit Over People, published in 1998. Next work is The Common Good. The Common Good, published in 1998. Next work, On Power and Ideology, published in 1999. Next work, The New Military Humanism, published in 1999. Next work, Acts of Aggression, Policies, Rogue States, written with Edward Said and Ramsey Clark. So acts of aggression, definitely they can ask. Written with Edward S. Said and Ramsey Clark. Who has written on Miseducation, published in 2000. So of education is again written, sorry, of language, on language, I'm sorry, on language was written by definitely Noam Chomsky, 1998. Of Miseducation was also written by Noam Chomsky. The Architecture of Language, this work is important. The Architecture of Language, written with Nirmalangshu Mukherjee and B.N. Patnaik. All right. Next work, New Horizons in the Study of Language and Mind, published in 2000. New Horizons in the Study of Language. They can simply ask this work. New Horizons in the Study of Language and Mind. Next work is again that you need to remember, Understanding Power and the Indispensable Chomsky, published in 2002. Understanding Power and the Indispensable Chomsky. You need to remember the names. Next work, Power and Terror. He has written, as I've told you already, more than 100 works. So we need to remember at least some names, some important names of his works. So Power and Terror, Conflict, Hegemony, and Rule of Force, published in 2011. You can simply ask who has written this work, Power and Terror, Conflict, Hegemony, and Rule of Force, right? Next work, The Science of Language. The Science of Language, published in 2012. Next work, Who Ruled the World? Who Ruled the World, published in 2014. Next work is very important, On Palestine. On Palestine, written by Noam Chomsky with Ian Pepe and Noam Chomsky. All right. Next work, Hegemony or Survival American Quest. Hegemony or Survival American Quest. Next work is Fateful Triangle. So they can simply ask, who has written Fateful Triangle? Next work is Understanding Power. Understanding Power. All right. Next work is Necessary Illusions. I hope you have already written these two works previously, so you do not need to write once again. Next work is Requiem for American Dream. So they can simply ask, who has written Requiem for the American Dream? The answer is Noam Chomsky. And these two works are very much important. You need to remember. Notes on Resistance. Who has written Notes on Resistance, published in 2022? The answer is Noam Chomsky. And this is Noam Chomsky's final work and latest work, Illegitimate Authority Facing the Challenges of Our Time, published in 2023. This work is Noam Chomsky's latest work, and we need to remember. So definitely one question can come. Who has written Illegitimate Authority Facing the Challenges of Our Time? The answer is Noam Chomsky. So I hope you have written down all the points. If you have any query, you can simply ask on the comment. I shall be replying everyone. And if you are new to my channel, let me tell you, I have created this channel, Literature Camp, for the preparation of UGC NET and SET in English literature. If you have internet pack, you can simply watch the classes. Thanks for your attention.